All right, so as before, we'll start today's presentation and the session. Let's go and check our board. So I haven't had a chance to check your exercises and bullets for the resume. So I will probably do it later tonight, but I see a lot of tickets are moving, which is great. Yeah. So I'm really happy about it. Do you guys have any questions about the homework or exercises? Does it all make sense to you?
I have not a question, just a couple of thoughts. To be honest, last exercises related to feedback, for example, personally for me was a little bit complicated to understand how to approach, how to resolve these tasks. And what I did, I just Googled it and tried to understand how this code works and how to resolve this issue. Maybe it would be great for us to do the same with during the class, or just a couple of minutes to explain to us a little bit more detail.
You mean explain the logic, how to resolve it?
Or? Logic. Yes, logic.
Okay. I think let me actually check. I think I put the. Oh, okay. So this video with loops wasn't enough for you guys. Like you want to get more information about the logic.
Maybe it's not for everybody, but I get stuck today with this.
Oh, okay.
So
okay.
Maybe it's not for everybody. It's just my thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, I can do that, but in general, how it usually works, you just see the exercise and you are doing exactly what you did. You just go into the Google, trying to find solutions there, trying to see the logic, maybe to see the logic in a different programming language and try to adapt it to your own. So yeah, I mean, in the interview, you even don't have this opportunity. So they will ask you to resolve it without any help from Google or from all the resources. I mean, they can help you maybe sometimes if they will see that you kind of stuck in some point, but in general, so if you cannot do that, you have to figure out by your own. But because we are just learning here, I'll probably try to give you more information during the grooming or in description, adding some hints. Because I don't want to describe the whole logic here, because if I'll tell you the logic, all you will need to do just write a code for it. It's not, I mean, it's very simplified, this exercise. So I will probably give some hints how to do that, but no more than that probably. Otherwise,
it would be perfect.
Yeah. All right, noted.
Thank you.
Yeah, remind me, in a grooming session, remind me about that. If you say, okay, so I may have some questions, just say hey, can you give me more information or kind of hits in the description, and I will do that.
Okay, I'll do. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
because sometimes a few things seems very obvious to me, but they may not be obvious for you. And, just to be sure we are on the same page.
Correct. Thank you.
All right, any more questions, guys? Okay, I'll take it as a no. And I guess we can start our session today. Let me turn on the presentation mode. And here we go. So yeah, we are, hopefully already understand the basic of Java and how to write simple codes, how to resolve simple algorithm equations using a Java, so it's really good. And even though we have understanding of the OOP concepts of Java, what's the class, what's the objects, so we will use them a lot during the web automation. So I guess we are finally ready to step on it. So here's the agenda. So first of all, I will talk to you what the Selenium is, just some kind of basic overview of Selenium. So then we're gonna talk about what you can automate using Selenium, like what kind of features it supports, how can you do that, and all of this stuff. And also after that, we are gonna talk about what Selenium actually cannot do, like what would be impossible for you to automate using Selenium, or even to write simple Selenium scripts. So also I will show you how to set up Selenium, how to download it, and how to start to work on it. Like, let's say if you want to develop some simple script using Selenium, because Selenium is basically browser, right? And you can like perform pretty much all the actions that users can do right there. So let's say if you want to use Selenium for different purposes, like let's say, I don't know, like automating posting your advertisement in a Craigslist or something else, like you can do it without setting the whole automation framework. Yeah, so and after that, we're gonna talk about the basic Selenium commands that we will use a lot in the future in this course. Okay, so let's get started then. So first of all, what's the Selenium, right? So you probably heard about what's the Selenium WebDriver, and actually like our whole course, I think, mentioned like in the description that we will focus automating in a web application, and for that we're gonna use like Selenium WebDriver. So basically Selenium, it's kind of like, I can describe it as a tool, as an API, as a driver that kind of helps you to perform some actions using a browser. Like it basically allows you to interact in a browser as a regular user. You can go like, you can open to any page. You can, as a human, I mean, I can as a human to assert some information there is present, or like review some information, or you can click to the elements, you can drag and drop, you can type basically whatever you want, and all of this like a basic commands, and that's what Selenium is for. And again, like as I mentioned before in the previous courses, like when it comes to web automation, Selenium is a #1 choice that you guys can pick and go through. You can like probably hear about some of the other tools, but most of them also using Selenium. So like in my opinion, there's like really no kind of good alternative for Selenium which will be as good as Selenium. So I mean, if like compared to the mobile automation where you can like you have kind of variety of the choice of the tools, I mean, even in mobile, it's basically Appium or native framework. But like Selenium, it's for web, it's like #1. Yeah, so you kind of like don't have any other good choice.
Yeah, I would add here that Selenium is pretty much the only tool that approved by W3C. So basically, it's a web standard. I think it happened like last year or something. So yeah, it's been around for a while. It's the only standard, and I don't think there's going to be any other standards really. And what else? Selenium WebDriver. Well, this is the set of tools to manipulate the actual browsers, like Firefox, Chrome, and actually pretty much all of them these days. And what it does, it really simulates the user, right? So instead of you doing like clicking the buttons in the browser, you can write a script. So using Selenium, your script will be doing all that regression for you or smoke for you, actually clicking and typing and waiting for page loads and validating some elements and stuff like that. So that's it.
Yep, and if you guys don't know what the W3C is, it's basically kind of like a standard for all web development. Like, let's say, even like if you reference something from W3C, that's mean like it's a pretty trustable source of information. I mean, like in terms of fonts, in terms of the kind of style, for everything, it's kind of like a source of truth for all web development. All right. So in addition to that, what we can do using Selenium, right? So you can execute your steps and write your steps using most popular browsers like Chrome, Safari, Firefox, Internet Explorer. I mean, probably you will mostly focusing on Chrome and Safari because I don't feel like many people using a Firefox right now, as it was like 5 years ago or like 10 years ago, but still, like sometimes the companies.
Could you please maybe mute him?
Yeah.
Yeah, so another thing here is that we have a list of browsers oh, actually no, hold on the that's actually no. I'm gonna request the most popular browsers for that application from the dev team, and we will basically implement whatever their customers use. But yeah, I would say Chrome is #1 these days with the market share of 65%. If I'm not mistaken, actually Internet Explorer is #2 with something like 15%. Firefox is #3 with 8 or something. But this is desktop. For mobile, it's a little bit different, and Safari would be very popular, and Chrome would be very popular for Android as well. But yeah, we will get there later.
Yeah. So basically, where you can get this information, I mean, it depends on the companies, but usually you can check in if your company using Google Analytics tool, GA, you can ask, like, if you don't have an access, you can ask your product manager or like business analyst to get this information, and based of that to pick like in which browsers to execute your test, or you can like execute to in the top 4. Like, it's up to you. It's up to your basically resources that you have. All right, so back to the topic. So again, what you can do in using Selenium, you can execute in popular browsers. You can emulate users' actions, like click, type, scroll. This actually not the full list. You can drag and drop. You can right-click to your mouse. You know, like download stuff, upload stuff. Like basically, Selenium all allows all of this. So if you need kind of like, if it's not enough for you and you need more, you can also execute JavaScript code in the console. Like why would you need to do that? It's basically, let's say, if you need to verify some kind of information which is not visible for users, like let's say you may need to get access to some of the JavaScript variables that's maybe using for the analytics or like for other things, or there's maybe like some kind of logic behind the users actually see. And to get that, you can just run simple JavaScript code and verify the data right there. Or you can like even trick more. You can like kind of, you know, like trick your application running some JavaScript code and to get kind of like advanced, take advantage of something and, you know, like bypass some of the flows. But I would not recommend you to do that, like unless you really need to, because we here, like in test automation, we kind of need to implement our test from the user's perspective. So it's basically kind of like a black box testing, right? Just focus on the black box, assuming that you cannot trick your application because your users will not be able to run JavaScript commands, right? Yeah, just focus on that. But if you really need to, you can do that. Like, so Selenium allows you to do that. And so what else? You can also access network API calls and responses. So why you would need to do that? Let's say if you need to verify your application sending some kind of analytics to the, I don't know, like to the third-party applications or maybe like internal analytic stuff. So sometimes you will need to verify that it's actually passing the right parameters, right? And to do that, you can access it using network logs and parse this call and verify these values right there. It's kind of like advanced level, but actually it's not that hard. Like if you really need to, you can do that.
Yeah, when it comes to network logs, it's actually very limited. So if you really need to capture the traffic, then there is better tools for that. It's not what it was built, the whole Selenium project. So I know there is a lot of on GitHub. There is a lot of comments around, questions around that, and developers responded out of scope. So, and I kind of agree with that.
Yeah. All right. So now, after understanding the full power of Selenium, let's see what it actually cannot do here. All right. So first of all, if you need to test your browser extensions, right, like a Chrome extensions or like any other browser extensions, you cannot use Selenium for that because extension is not part of a web application, right? It's basically extension itself. It's actually a desktop application. It's like additional application to your browser. And as we know that Selenium, like focusing only on web, like you cannot go beyond your browser, and you will need to use like other tools to automate that. So second of all, you cannot avoid, like if your application using a CAPTCHA or any other preventage for using bots or, you know, like not welcome traffic, you cannot like avoid it. Like you cannot ask Selenium to, you know, like to go over the CAPTCHA. But in this case, let's say if you need to access some kind of parts of your application, and if you're like testing in a test environment, you can ask, I mean, because it's a test environment, you can ask your developers like, hey, can you disable it from there? Or like, can you build any additional functionality? Let's say if you passing the specific key and URL, like it should be disabled. I mean, or something like that, but do not try to, you know, like kind of like avoid it, to go through it, to write scripts for a CAPTCHA. Just try to ask disable it for some cases that you can do.
Yeah, so I would like to add here that the whole point of having CAPTCHA is actually preventing the automation. So basically not you, but bots and those unfair people, because once you know how to deal with Selenium, you can actually automate, let's say, email creation on Gmail and stuff like that. So CAPTCHA was actually was built just to prevent that. So basically, in this case, if you want to be smarter than CAPTCHA, then you gotta be smarter than the whole Google, which is, I doubt it's gonna be the case. So don't even try to do that. It's pretty much almost impossible. But yeah, usually in the teams, as Azat mentioned, That's how it works. It's configured based on the environment, and it's nothing wrong if you ask developers to disable it in test environments. It's actually the way it should be. And in all the companies that I worked, it was disabled in test environments just because of automation. And you're not supposed to test in production anyways, run your script, so that's fine.
Yeah. All right. So what else? Like you cannot really test video streaming using Selenium. I mean, you can kind of verify the video is present, but you cannot let's say it's a video streaming, right? You cannot, using Selenium, be like 100% sure that video is displaying, it's like sync with sound from this video, or you put it to the pause or resume, like all of the stuff. Like there's other tools that can do that, but Selenium itself is kind of limited when it comes to the video streaming. Yeah, that's unfortunate, but it is what it is. So you cannot also verify the QR codes or the barcodes in a page if it has some, because like it doesn't have the reader itself. I mean, you can check the, like, let's say if the element which contains a QR code or a barcode, like it probably has specific class name, like calling the barcode element something. You can verify this element is present, but you cannot be sure that this QR code is actually valid using Selenium. Well, performance testing, like you cannot do performance testing like in a kind of like original way how it's supposed to be. Like, I mean, you can run your tests in a parallel, let's say like in a 10 browsers or like 15 browsers, but that's basically it that you can do. But you cannot like, like emulate all these like calls that you will need to for performance testing. And most probably you won't need, like, you don't need the browser to do that, because like in performance testing, like if, as we guys probably know, if we are verifying the performance of the servers, how they're handling the huge traffic, and most probably you won't need to use browser itself to do that. And there's like other tools that's used for performance testing, but Selenium is not. It's mostly like one user focused kind of tool. All right, so do you guys have any questions so far?
For performance testing, you can actually use JMeter to run Selenium-based scripts instead of capturing them in a JMeter. But I would say I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, you can, but first ask yourself, like, do I really need to do that? Because it's really painful for you to create.
It's kind of weird, yeah.
Yeah, kind of really weird. But yeah, you can do that.
Dennis, question. What do you think about load tests in Visual Studio?
Load test in Visual Studio.
I think it's out of scope for this class.
For performance testing, I mean.
I mean, they all do the same. And there is plenty of them, and I know our developers use that. I never used that one, but from what I've heard, I mean, it does exactly the same pretty much, and it has some nice integrations with Microsoft products.
Okay.
It's like comparing, I don't know, C# and Java. I mean, which one is better? Well, hard to say. They both do the same, really.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, when it comes to performance testing, there's basically not much that you can do. You're basically just generating the load and kind of monitoring like what's your application, how your application behave. insert and load, which was generated. And that's basically like in this kind of things, like, I mean, there's like plenty of tools, a lot of tools for performance testing. I mean, JMeter, like one of the popular one and one of the oldest one. And I know like companies that used to use JMeter, then they switched to another tools. But yeah, as Dennis mentioned, like there's pretty much, you can do what it's basically asked for.
Yeah, JMeter is, I would say, a standard when it comes to load testing because it's pretty old and mature. And there is a lot of tools around it, like Taurus or BlazeMeter. But again, all those tools, even like you can say like for load testing, JMeter is like Java. It's the most popular, even though it's one of the kind of oldest. You can compare like C# with this Visual Studio, and then there is another one like Gatling and some other tools. I've never used them, but they work pretty much the same way.
Yeah. The thing is about performance testing, like one last thing, it's not hard to create scripts to do performance testing. It's really hard then to analyze them. Kind of like after you're receiving the data, you will need to figure out like which part of your servers are perform slowly, or like you kind of like, I mean, in certain ways you have kind of like false statements, like like a fail statements, but sometimes if your server still like working, like it's kind of the whole different fields how you will like figuring out these results and working with them.
I would add here that tools themselves are not that important. You should be focused on the knowledge and your skills. And if you need to pick up some other tool, they all the same. You will do it fairly quickly. But if you don't understand the concept, then it will take you forever, and you won't get a job basically. But if you're familiar with JMeter but never used C#, or I mean Visual Studio tool, then it's fine. Not a big of a deal.
Mm-hmm. All right, so now let's actually go to the Selenium demo and see how it all looks like and how it all works.
So do you want to? Do you have something to show with that, or?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
All right, so to get started with Selenium, so first of all, guys, you will need to go to this web page. It's called seleniumhq.org. So this is basically the website for Selenium itself.
Yeah, it's official website.
Yeah, it's official website. And to install the Selenium, you will need to go here to the downloads and install the client version archive. So like, because if you're using a Java, you can like need to click this download and it will start to download it after that. And also what you will also need for that, you will also need driver itself. Like Selenium itself, it comes with a Mozilla driver. But if you want to run your test in a Chrome, like you will need to install it. Just go to the latest link and install it from there. So I already have like installed all of them. So that's why I will skip it.
Yeah, and if you use our framework, then you don't have to install the Selenium jar itself, only the Chrome driver.
Yeah. All right, let me open the IntelliJ IDE. All right, guys, if you want to use like Selenium, like if you want to create a project for Selenium, there's like a few steps that you will need to do. You will need to open IntelliJ IDE, go to the create new project. From here, just you can like select SDK if you have like several versions, but if you have only one, you can just skip it and go to the next one. You can skip it as well. Just name your project. Let's say Selenium demo class, and finish it. All right, so basically after that, IntelliJ IDE, it generates files that you will like need for that. And let's create a class under this src folder. Let's name it Selenium demo. And here we go, we have a class. So what you also will need to do here, after like downloading these libraries, you will need to go to the project structure. And from here, go to the libraries, click to the plus button, click to the Java. And you will need to add basically all these files. I mean, first of all, you will need to unzip it. After you unzip it, you will see these libraries. So you need to check pretty much all of them.
Yeah, so there is a little bit shorter version. So if you download the bigger file, it's called Selenium Server Standalone. It's going to be one file around 30 megabytes. And in that case, you only need to add that one file in here.
Yeah.
This is a more lightweight version. So because that file comes with all with too many classes that you probably won't need.
I think it also it's actually a standalone server. So basically you can just run it and it will work.
Yeah, exactly. That one is not just a library, but it's actually a Java application as well.
Yeah. All right, so after you add it, click the OK button. And one more thing. So after you install this Chrome driver, so you also will need to put it to your project. To do that, let me actually find it here. All right, yeah, so copy it. And as for demo, let's add it here. All right. All right, so now we're kind of ready to write our Selenium script. So I already have.
What do you think? What should you start from?
Navigate to the web page.
No. Import Selenium library.
Oh.
No. Come on.
We should import the driver, Selenium driver.
No, not yet. Something is missing. Very, very important.
Create a repository.
Maybe.
Oh, so many ideas.
Main method.
What?
Main method.
Yes, exactly. Right, Azad?
Yes. I mean, I kind of already have a full script that I wrote earlier today. So I'm probably gonna paste it here and to explain you, because it will take time until you will finish to write it here. All right, so this is my short. So yeah, of course you will need to rename it.
Oh, well, that's what I told. We should, first of all, we should import or our.
No, that's not how you work. So, Okay, Azat, you can delete the line numbers 8, and instead you can just move Chrome driver to the top, to the Selenium demo class level. It will pick it up automatically. And then, yeah, could you please comment this out as well? And delete imports.
Delete Chrome driver?
Yeah, comment this out and delete imports.
All right.
Yeah, so this is how you write your application. You don't import it unless it's kind of needed. So, and you can move Chrome driver to the top, not to SRC, but to the Selenium demo class folder. Just drag and drop the actual file. Yeah. Yeah, right here. So in that case, you don't have to say like where it should be. So now let's start. Now let's start with the actual code, right? So we need to declare a browser first, right? So can you do that in the beginning?
Yes, I can. So it basically.
So how you guys are doing? You see WebDriver here. So you start typing WebDriver, it picks it up, and then you start typing, like you're giving a name, and you create a new instance of the Chrome driver class, right? You see it's already there. And you see imports are already there automatically. Sometimes they don't show up, but it actually knows what you're meaning by this, and it actually shows you like, hey, you want to import it, and it shows you like hit Alt and Enter. On Mac, it's like Command and Enter, I believe, and it will import those things automatically. So you don't have to actually write those imports on yourself. IDE will take care of that. So.
Yeah, it's yeah. Just to clarify, like it's basically IntelliJ IDE doing that for you. Like it's not like a Java itself. So like you will need two additional tools to do that.
And IntelliJ IDE is super smart. I mean, they flipped the whole IDE market a few years back, and it's just so fun to work with. Comparing to other ones like Eclipse, for example, it's not even close.
Yeah, I would agree, but as long as you start to work with Xcode, like you can say that.
Oh, really? I've never worked with Xcode. I mean, Visual Studio is fine, but I feel like IntelliJ IDEA is still better.
Yeah, I agree. Like I also use a PyCharm, which is also the same thing, or RubyMine.
Yeah, I used to use RubyMine as well. Yeah, they all similar and they all good.
Yeah. All right. So do you guys remember our OOP class when we learned how to initialize the classes? So that's basically what we're doing here, right? We're specifying the class type, and we're specifying the new class, which is a new Chrome driver. Sorry.
And the thing here, what it's gonna do, actually, it will, once you declare this new Chrome driver, it will actually launch the Chrome browser. So you can think about this object here as its actual browser, actually. I mean, it's no joke. It's not like some string that you don't see that resides in the memory somewhere, like base URL, but it is actual browser that you will see. And all those actions that we, like line 18, get and base URL, it will actually navigate to that URL. So this driver is literally your browser.
Mm-hmm. So again, guys, like let me go through this code and explain you what it's actually doing here. So we can actually comment this out for now, because we don't need it. All right, so first of all, we are initiating the driver, right? So basically what this command will do, it will just open the browser, and that's it, and start a session, like a browser session. So after that, I kind of declared attributes here, like as a string, as a URL, and as expected page title and the actual title. So it's actually empty because we don't know the actual title yet, unless like until we will go to this page. And after we will go there, like after this step, we will get it and we will assign the value from that using getTitle Selenium method here. And after that, we will verify if it's equal. If it's the same as expected one. If it is, it will just print the test pass. If it's not, it will just print the test failed. And after that, it will close the browser. So these commands like get and getTitle and close, it's Selenium commands, which is like was predefined in the libraries that we already imported. I'm gonna talk about it a little bit later after we will finish this demo, and yeah, we will go over for all these commands. All right, so let's try to run it and see if it works or not. So to do that, click to the right, click to the mouse, and click Run Driver Demo Main. So you see it's opening the browser, it's going to please.com page, and it's closing it, and it's actually printing it's failed because I think I intentionally changed my title. Actually, I don't know why it's failed. Let me check. Let me check the actual title here. Yeah, so it says please plan my trip, and I intentionally change it to the trips, and that's why it's failed. So let's rerun it again. Yeah, this information, which is okay, it's fast. You can ignore it. So it basically Selenium auto-generated messages. So it's tell you which driver version you're using, like in which port, and like
these are basically logs, and we will cover those later on. But this is Selenium logger.
Yep. All right. So probably it's this test, like Selenium itself, it's like pretty fast, Chrome pretty fast, and sometimes you cannot really see what it's actually doing. But for now, I created this like small delay method, which will delay our our code intentionally for, let's say, for 7,000 milliseconds, right? Which is like 7 seconds, actually. Let's run it again. So again, you see, it's going to my based URL that I defined. So now it's kind of waiting 7 seconds because I forced him to do that. And after that, it's verifying the title, which is a please plan my trip, as we can see here. It compares the actual title and expected title, and that's why it's saying it's passed. And after that, it's closing the browser. That's pretty much it. Yeah, it's kind of like simple version of a Selenium script just for a demo, just to show you guys how it's all working. Do you guys have any questions, like code-wise? Like, is it kind of make sense for you, or you still kind of confused about that?
Can you zoom in the screen?
Yes.
Yeah, I have a question. Why are you declaring WebDriver, but then it becomes a Chrome driver? Line 11. Guys, do you know what's the answer over there? How come it like WebDriver equal to Chrome driver? Remember when we created those instances, we said like car, like Dennis car equal new car, right? Not anymore. No, nobody knows the answer. Okay, we will cover that later.
What was the answer?
WebDriver is an interface. It's not the concrete class. And we will cover interfaces later on. It's another technique, very popular in programming. And I would say, again, like all programming is built around interfaces.
Yep.
You can actually say, just to avoid confusion for now, is that could you please change WebDriver driver to Chrome driver driver? Yeah, like this. You see now it's like how we used to do it, right? And it's still gonna work.
Cool. Thank you, Dennis, for explaining. And
Well, I haven't explained anything. I just wiped out the dust under the floor, under the rug, you know.
yeah. All right, do you guys have any questions now about the code itself?
Yeah, can you explain about this assertion, actual title, and how it verifies the actual title and if it fails or not?
It's actually, yeah, it's a good question. This one, it's not assertion. It's just, I mean, do you guys remember content equals method that we used to compare the strings in our homework? So basically, this method, it returns, it's a Boolean method. It returns a Boolean value. If this statement is true, it will return true. If it's not, it will return false. And saying like if this one equals to this one, we're assuming it's true. Just print this message. If it's not, like it will just print the other message. It's not like assertion. It just kind of like custom assertion.
Yeah, in fact, like whatever you see here, you wouldn't probably see it in your framework, and even it's never like actual application, so it's never like main method. For tests, there is another entry point. You never see like this declaration of drivers and URLs. They coming from property files and configs or dependency injections. Sleep, of course, you never use that as well. And assertions themselves, there is a better way of doing them. So we will do that later on as well, using actual assertions. And driver close, again, that thing goes to fixtures. So that's kind of a boilerplate code, just to get familiar. But yeah, we're gonna refactor it drastically, because this type of code you will never see in frameworks.
Yeah, and again, it's not test. It just it just script itself. Like if you run it as a test, it will pass even if it's failed. So, but yeah, as Dennis mentioned, we will like go to it later. So if you guys don't have questions yet, let me exit presentation mode. So basically, I upload this simple code to my GitLab account. So let me show you where it is. So it's called Selenium demo. And here you can actually get it. Like if you want, you can get it from here. So it's under my repo, Azad Test Pro. /Selenium demo. I mean, in case if you will need it, if you want to play around with that. All right, so let's get back to our presentation because it's only half of it. All right, so what's the basic Selenium commands that we have? So first of all, it's a get command. Get command pretty much used when you're going to any web page. You're just specifying as a string the actual URL, and as I actually did here, like it's please master.now.sh. That's actually our application that we're gonna work a lot in the future classes, in the future homework. So
yeah, the only thing they just changed, they just finished rebranding, so this URL is actually wrong. But
it's a state URL. I think it's
no, it's called Deans now. I think they may sell the domain.
Oh,
or
really?
something. Mm-hmm. So it should be Deans, DENS. Well, let me actually post it, so just in case. That one is the old stage environment, but I would expect it to go down maybe sometime later. I don't know. But let me post that in here. So this is our application. This is the new URL. You will notice the different logos and stuff like that. And I believe the application itself has changed a little bit.
Yep. All right. So this is basically the way to navigate to the URL. And there's actually another method to do that. You can call driver.navigate.to. It's basically will do exactly the same thing. It will just open this web page. And using this navigate method, you can perform different navigation. Like you can go back to the previous page. You can go forward to do like a forward action in the browser. You can actually refresh the page. I mean, for refreshing, like we are basically just hitting the same URL. So it's up to you if you want to use refresh method or use like get the same URL method. And for closing browsers, you can use a .class method and .quit. The difference between them is that the close method will, like if you say, let's say if you have several drivers opened at the same time, right? So .close will close this the current instance. .quit will close all the instances of the browser. Yeah, I would say it's more safe to use a quit method rather than close, in case like if something went wrong and you will have like a multiple instances and just don't have a mess in your laptop or like in any other laptop, just use a quit method.
I believe the difference actually is that close will close the actual Chrome driver, Chrome browser, but it will not wipe out the browser instance, the object in the memory. Quit will actually do both, and it will call dispose method, and it will dispose the actual instance of the object. So it's going to be set to basically null.
Yeah. All right. So let's go to the different.
So, and guys, remember we were creating this method. So basically, this driver is nothing but an object, and these are all the methods. You can actually go in IntelliJ IDE if you click Control B. Maybe could you please do that real quick?
Yeah.
So if you click like Chrome driver, you can do just dot, and it actually shows you all the methods you see in bold. These are the methods that you can call. Well, some of them are bold, some of them are not, and they have these icons on the left side and like locks, and on the right side the return type of the method. So as you can see, it's not like car when we had only one method. These guys actually have like quite a few of them.
Yeah.
Right? And you can actually navigate to Chrome driver. Can you click Chrome driver and Control B into it? So this is your source of truth. This is actual class where you can read documentation. And I would actually highly recommend you, before even Googling anything, you should go here and read about those methods, about like what they accept, what they do. You see deprecated, meaning that it's still available, but they switching to options now, which is the next one. But you see, it's a lot of things here. So this is a real class, how it's written in, and this is basically how we will write those classes. Maybe less comments, but classes usually are pretty big.
Yeah.
Looks scary, huh?
I mean, this one is not, it's only like 240 lines of codes. It's not like a thousands, but yeah, still.
Yeah.
All right, so let me go back here. So that was the action navigation commands. So this one is the finding elements. We will talk more about it in the first day, how we can actually access the elements of the page. But this is kind of like overview. So the best practice finding elements, it's basically when you use identification, like a unique identification for this element, which is called ID. And by design, by requirements in ZW3C, actually, that Dennis mentioned before, like in a page itself, there should be like one unique identification for an element. There shouldn't be any more elements with the same identifications. And that's why I would say it's safe to assume if you have ID of element that it's unique, but you will need to double check that just in case.
Yeah, and yeah, it's actually HTML standard, so it doesn't mean, oh, thank you. It doesn't mean it's not gonna work. And in fact, in my application, we used to have like duplicated IDs, but we actually logged those bugs and developers fixed them.
Yeah. All right, so if you don't have a ID, you can use a name attribute. I mean, name can be, names doesn't support, like they can be duplicated names, but that's why it's kind of less safe to use them. But again, just before using, just to verify on the page how you, like if it's unique or not. After that, you can use a class name, tag name, link text, or like partial link text, or most probably you will use like XPath or CSS locators. You can actually like use identify the elements by the IDs, names, or class names, or tag names, pretty much by anything, just using CSS selector or XPath selector, because it's like really powerful tools to access the elements. And like, let's say in a real framework, they don't usually use specific methods to call the element by ID. They're specifying the ID within the CSS selector itself or XPath. So it's like up to the company. Yeah, we're gonna like again talk about them little like more in Thursday in a special class for the locators, because it's like really huge topic to cover, and like even like for separately for CSS or XPath. So yeah, I wouldn't like concentrate much on them. Like today we will have separate class.
And XPath is actually another programming language. It has like methods as well, and I don't even like know it that good, but it's very powerful. XPath is the most powerful.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's the most complicated one.
Yeah,
it's the slowest one as far as I know.
that's not true actually.
Yeah, there is a lot of it's like based on like browsers, and I would really don't like even focus on that part, because sometimes XPath is slower, sometimes CSS is slower. Just I don't think it's really like that much of important.
Yeah, I mean, XPath itself has their own downsides, which we're gonna cover later. But saying that XPath is basically basically it's kind of like it's just interacting with XML of the page, and because we have a different browsers, like XML3 for different browsers, they may be different. Let's say I know like for Internet Explorer, that's really like quite kind of like frequently happening that you will see the different tree for the element in a Internet Explorer. Yeah, and XPath is just like the way it's written, it's like really complicated, and if you have a chance to avoid it, I would suggest it, because CSS compared to XPath is like real more cleaner and more nicer than XPath. And the CSS like basically can do everything that XPath can do. The only thing it cannot do, it cannot access the element using the text of this element. Yeah, but other than that, it can do pretty much everything.
It cannot do two more things, but yeah, don't wanna say it today. I think it's gonna be enough, really.
Yeah. All right, so let's move to the different Selenium commands topics. So this is the actions that you can do with these elements. Let's say you already find an element, right? Like let's say you have a button 1, you already found it using find element method, and after that you can interact with that. You can click to it, you can type like something if it's a field, you can clear this previously typed field, and like you can like get a text of this element, get like any other attributes which is like element contains, and yeah, so pretty much you can do anything as users can do. Like you can, as I mentioned, even do like a drag and drop. You can access elements like using the coordinates. I mean, it's kind of like complicated way, but you're still capable to do that. And yeah, so the logic how it works, again, like you're accessing the element, and after you access it, it basically will return you this element of the web page element object, and with this object, it basically has all these built-in methods like click, send case, clear, get text, and pretty much other elements of that. Yeah, it's maybe like a bit just like too much information, but again, it will make more clear for you once we will start to work with that and start to build real automation scripts and interact with these elements on the web page.
What does getText action do?
It will return the, okay, let me show you in a browser.
It will return visible text of the element, the one that is shown to user. So for example, like any text that you can see, this is like getText. Yeah, just, you can just use h1 tag.
So this is a Chrome dev tool, guys. So this is basically our primer tool to access the elements. And here, here's the search bar where you can search for the elements using a CSS or XPath.
Yeah, just click Control F or Command F. I don't think it's shown by default.
Oh yeah, yeah. Just Command F in a Mac, and in Windows, I'm not sure. Probably it's Control F.
Control F, yeah. Regular search.
Yeah, and here, let's say we are looking for this title, right, for the elements. You can right-click on it and click to the inspect, and it will show you the HTML3 of this page, of this like click element. And let's say we have a H1 tag, right? Let's see if it's unique or not. So I'm gonna use a CSS locator for it. Okay, it's 16 elements, so it's not unique. All right, for demo purposes, let's use this class name.
I mean, you can still use H1 tag. It's gonna be first element. Tag itself. H1 text is not unique, yes, because it searches by string. But the H1 tag, I believe, is unique. You can just do what? H1 and then in a square brackets, like whatever class or basically anything.
Yeah. Or you can use a class for that. But again, this application built in React.js, and the one bad thing for automation engineers in React that it loves to auto-generate the elements. Like we see the class name here, right? But I'm pretty sure like this home tag line and this, like some kind of words, they're like auto-generated. So basically that means it may be updated later on and it's kind of like not safe to use them. But for now, let's say like if you will use it, we will see that it's only one unique element here on the page. And we are accessing this web element, right? So let's actually.
The good thing, we will have to spend more time figuring out dynamic locators, which is good for you guys.
Yeah, actually, let me use it in our script here.
I actually have that code, if you're curious.
Yeah, you can probably, if you can post it, that would be nice.
So
all right. So for some reason it didn't auto-import it.
I think you can click Alt Enter. So click on it and wait for a second. Yeah, right now you see it shows like some combination of Command Enter or something. Try Command Enter. Well, the second one is definitely Enter, but the first one is, or maybe it's Shift Enter. Try to locate it on your keyboard.
Yeah.
One more time. Or maybe just try to do it right now without waiting it.
Maybe Control?
Maybe Control, yeah. I mean, you can see like there is the first one is like a slash. You can just find it on your keyboard. I mean, I don't have it because I'm using Windows. On the Mac, it should be just that icon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's.
So, oh no, it's generate. I thought it's supposed to import it, no? Yeah, this one is correct. Okay, you got it. So what was that?
It's Option and Enter.
Oh, it's Option. Okay. So this is, guys, how you import the stuff. If it wasn't imported automatically, you just do this. And in most cases, in all IDEs, you just need to remember this keyword. This is the most powerful combination. Usually, if it's red, you don't even read what it asks. You just hit that combination on your keyboard, and 95% of times it will do it right.
All right, so let me comment this out. Even this one. All right, so basically it will go to this page. It will find this element by tag name, and it will get the text, and after that it will print the text. Let me click to the run.
Yeah, the trick here is that we don't have this text anywhere in the code. So in the previous time we had that text somewhere. You can do like it passed or failed. This time we don't have anything at all. So we should see. Well, it's yeah, customizable.
Yeah. Customizable grid. Yeah, it's the text. So you guys see, it's the text of this element was printed in the console. And we located this element by the tag name, which is H1.
Yeah, I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, could we get the same tag name without launching the browser?
You mean in the script itself?
Yeah, if we just need some title or some text from the site, but we don't want to launch a browser, could we do it or not?
Well, you can use headless browsers, like if you don't want to open the actual browser, but to get like to interact with web application, you will need to use browser anyway.
Yeah, so it's a few things there. So first of all, we are simulating actual users, right? And users use real browsers. And the thing here that users use visual, they use eyes really. So if you use headless browser, that's the actual users cannot use headless browsers, right? There is nothing to see. And all the browsers are really, it's just visual. It's an image, which is HTML basically HTML is XML. It's a special case of XML format. And then it gets rendered. And there is a JavaScript as well, a lot of JavaScript these days on the page. If you do headless, then they may have some issues with that.
Yeah, I got it. Thank you. Mm-hmm.
So basically, when you develop your script, you have browser open all the time. And yes, as I mentioned, in some browsers, the tree can be different because developers do some workarounds sometimes, like browser specific. So it can work in Chrome, but if you run IE, it will fail just because it's different tree. So yeah, I saw it as well. So it's better to use the same browser, not just any browser, but the same browser.
Yeah, I mean now it like back in the days, like Phantom.js was kind of powerful and popular headless browser. But right now, Chrome, it actually provides a headless browser version of the Chrome, and which is like, it's actually really fast and like really reliable. And as Google says, like it's kind of like pretty much do everything that actual browsers do. But like if you want to play around, you can use you can try to use a Chrome headless browser. I mean, it's kind of handy if you're going to run your automation tests in CI using like Docker containers and run it there. So like,
yeah, on Linux machines usually don't have any UI at all, so it doesn't make sense to. You really just cannot render the page. There is no screen. There is no UI at all, just like DOS, right?
Yeah, but it's like really maybe hard then to debug the failures unless like it won't make a screenshot or like actual HTML3 after the failure. So like in a development phase, I would really recommend you to use the actual browser and locate elements from there. Because pretty much like all the HTML tree for the headless browsers would be the same, as you can see here. Yeah, the only difference, like it won't populate right there. All right, guys. There's a last thing that I want to cover in this presentation. It's actually find elements method. Like previously, we located elements in using a find element, and we were looking specifically for one element, right? For this for this title on the page. But there's a cases when you will need to get more than one element, or you want to like count how many elements the page have, or pretty much like in any cases, because it may be there's maybe no elements of that, and if you will use like find elements, specifically one, your test will fail. But in case of find elements, it will just return you the empty list of the elements. And let's say in a browser previously, when we were trying to find a locator for this like a title, I used the H1 block, and you see this is a 16 elements, right, for the same tag. And like let's say like in some of the cases I want to get list of these elements.
Yeah, sorry, is that it's not the, I believe, is it 16?
It says 16, yeah.
Oh yeah, right, because every single this, yeah, right.
Yeah, I think it counts the.
It can be like really just a string sometimes. Like, well, these are all basically H1 tags, right? But I believe there was a string as well. But yeah, anyways, it's not unique.
Yeah, and you see like all this like a nature, food, all this menu items. They also use the same tag. And let's say in some of the cases you will need to get a list of them. You can use find elements to access and interact with all these elements instead of just one. And if you will use it, it will basically return you. I mean, if there's like no elements, it will return the empty list. But if there is elements, like let's say in this case, it will return you like 16 elements as a list, and then you can like interact with them and work as a regular list.
Yeah, and list is similar to array, the one that we already covered. So you basically can loop through, but list actually a little bit different. And we're gonna cover the collection API later.
Yep. All right, so that's it from me today. Do you guys have any questions regarding Selenium? It's just kind of like intro lesson, right? So the purpose was just to show how it works and what it can do, and the way it's like structured. Later on, once we'll start to work with like a real automation framework, like it will be different, and it will be like more complexly organized using like a patterns, like a page object patterns and some other things. But for now, just like entry point, that's pretty much it. Yeah. Any question, guys? Does it make sense, everything that we covered today?
Yeah, it's pretty clear.
Okay. All right, so like if you don't have any questions, so if you will have some questions later on, you can ask in Slack. But we're gonna dig deeper more in the first day, and especially in our Saturday class when we'll do like more practice. So hopefully we'll get like our framework ready, up and running, so we can like start to work and start to automate our regression for that.
Will we have any additional homework about these topics or not on this week?
If you're asking specifically for this week, no, because we already groomed and planned our tickets, but we can, like, if you want, if you already finished your current assignments, I can try to share some of the information for you, but like not the particular, like exercises, because like in this level, we didn't much cover anything yet, right? We just like show you the demo, but like after we will cover the locators, after we will have our frameworks set running, after we will practice in our project, like we will have like a lot of homeworks regarding to that.
Yeah, I see. Thank you.
All right, so okay guys, if you don't have any more questions, I will finish this lesson and I will see you all on Thursday.
1 second of that. I have a question related to framework. What do you mean by saying framework up and running? Should we build our own framework, or you will give us something which is predefined?
Yeah, it's a good question. So, Dennis, do you want to answer regarding the framework itself?
Yeah, so I wouldn't really recommend you to build your own framework. It will take you like a month, really, just to integrate all the pieces and make sure it's running fine. We will cover every single piece of it, and we'll show how it is already implemented. And just in case you need to find whatever framework, you basically can find these days. You can find all of them on a GitHub, like any tools that you can only imagine. So that's what I usually do for myself. I did build one framework from scratch. I think it's not worth the effort, really. Just a wasting of time.
So I think that if you come to the new project and I'm going to build, like my assignment would to build a framework from scratch, it's a better way to get some already set up framework and download it from GitHub.
Yeah, that's what I usually do. Building from scratch, it sounds kind of, I mean, what are you building from scratch, really? So all those tools, they are all existing. You're not building them. What you're doing, you're integrating them with each other. And as I mentioned, on a GitHub, there is pretty much any framework with any tools that you really need. I can show you how to search for that a bit later, but I don't think really it's worth the effort. And even like if you, let's say, use any other framework, for example, Azat, you can correct me if I'm wrong, for mobile automation, you want to build an app, you basically just click, you open IDE, you click like create an app, and that thing will basically create like most of the stuff for you already, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So you don't like really build anything. It's all built for example, I can say for C#, using C#, you can build web applications, you can build web services, you can build desktop applications, you can even build mobile applications with Xamarin. Basically, you can build anything you can only imagine. And every time you need to really build it, you just click like create create application, and it asks you like, hey, you want to build web or web service or whatever. You click that and done. You built your framework with one click.
Okay, thank you. I got it. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty much the same as Dennis mentioned. Like when I created this project, so it kind of auto-generated like these files, like src file. I mean, it's a simple one, but still, if you like do it manually, like all the files, this configuration, I mean, I'm like pretty much you can do that like after you will understand like each part, like in the end of our course, like you can do it by your own, like of course, but most probably you won't want to like spend your time on that.
Yeah, and I would add maybe it's actually like that course, because just for example, if you want to integrate Cucumber with this framework that we built, you have to pull some dependencies, you have to configure Qux, which is like, even I don't know what is that. So you will have to read a whole bunch of documentation just to get familiar with the Cucumber itself, and I promise you, you will get so many failures. Usually, especially for beginners, it's not the best thing really to do. Even for senior people, for SDETs, it's challenging.
Okay. Are we going to work with the POM file? Like make all dependencies by ourselves, or it's be included in framework?
Can you repeat?
Could we? Are we going to work with POM file, like arrange all dependencies and all stuff which should be there, or it will be predefined for us?
There is really not much to work with. If you want to add dependency, just one line, which you copy from Maven repository, completely as it is over there, and just paste it into your POM file. Or if we use Gradle, then there was actually a question about Maven versus Gradle, but it's basically the same for both. You just copy it, and I mean, not much really. There is nothing special about it.
Okay. Yeah, I agree. Okay, thank you.
If you want to do, let's say, I don't know, package your framework to like jar file, then you can do that, but that's going to be way more complicated.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Oh, thank you, guys.
So out of those tools that we're going to use, we should probably focus on like Java itself and Selenium WebDriver. But the rest of the stuff, like Maven itself, is pretty big application. I maybe know like 5% of it, because I really don't need to know 95. So don't try to learn everything. It's not possible.
Yeah.
I agree.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, focus on what's important.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you, Dennis. Thank you, Bob.
Mm-hmm. All right. Any more questions, guys? Okay, I will take it as a no. And yeah, we will see you on Thursday. And again, like if you'll have any questions regarding to anything, just post it on Slack and we will get back to you. All right, and thank you for participating, and have a good night.
Thank you, guys. Have a good night.